ITLF has announced a mass burial which the Meitei group in the valley opposed. The Manipur High Court stepped in and instructed the parties to maintain status quo ante at the site where the Kuki-Zo community wanted to organize the burial. The court asked them to make an amicable solution. During the day, people wanted to go to Churachandpur, but it was stopped and tear gas shells were used. Firing happened. Our reporters were there. So let me come to the point without wasting your time and my time, and let me ask this to Brijesh Pandey. Boss, what's happening?
I think, we discussed this issue yesterday and today going by...
The
firing and overall incident which happened is a clear reminder that, we may talk anything, but the fact of the matter remains that the deep distrust, the deep divide continues and no ethnicity is willing to concede an inch. Today, they have taken a decision post the intervention of the court, but how long this peace or the court-administered peace will continue is open to guess. I think this situation has to come where the court either has to take a decision this way or that way. Otherwise, this scenario will again happen and violence will happen again. If you look at these visuals, Karthike, it's a fairly indicative visuals of what exactly is happening on the ground. Lobbing of tear gas shells, firing which is happening, and our correspondent was right there in the middle of it. He was right there in the middle of it because yesterday we discussed the Kokomi has opposed this ITLF.
Okay, let me play out those graphics. Please play out those graphics so that the people can read. The point of views of the Meitei community, the point of view of the Kuki community, and the result of what has happened in entire Manipur. The situation in the valley is tense. Curfew has been reimposed in the east and west Imphal. Only journalists and essential services are allowed. 17 people have been injured. Essential services exempted from the curfew, which is doctors, food, medical services, media coverage. But apart from that, no civilian movement has been allowed. But then, Meitei groups fear land encroachment by Kukis. That's what Meiteis are saying. Meiteis also are saying that there are foreign fighters there. They need to be identified and their citizenship needs to be confirmed. Now, that is not acceptable to the Kuki community. The Kuki community has other point of view. The ITLF has taken out a press release. In the ITLF press release, a different dimension of the conflict comes. It says, first of all, separate administration. Then it says legalization of the burial site in Boijang. It is, I think, South Boijang. And Meitei forces are not to be deployed in the hills. That is part of the demand. And they also say that those Kuki bodies in Imphal should be brought back to Lamka. They should be brought back from Lamka. And tribal jailmates to be transferred out of the valley. This is the big issue. And let me go to Madam Guite. Dr. Guite, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here, Karthike. Thank you for having me.
A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Guite. Your first response on what has happened in mass burial, I mean to say, this is the least that was expected. You had a warlike situation on an issue of burying dead bodies.
Exactly. This is really a surprising news, which is just very fresh violence which is occurring, and we see the Mera Paivis and the rapid forces. They were at loggerhead with each other, stone pelting. A very disturbing scene. You can see the violence happening at that buffer zone. But the whole issue of regarding burial of the dead bodies, and which I feel that the dead, they deserve that respect, and it should not be politicized over, the burial site. Okay, I understand because of the kind of deep-seated hatred, and then which is coming from, the fight for land and basically for land. So it is alleged that the Kuki-Zo are trying to, come to that.
The charge is, Dr. Guite, that the Kuki-Zo community are trying to encroach on the Meitei land. Is it correct?
Exactly. Yeah, the charge is that, but the High Court has, asked the ITLF to, postpone the burial, and in the meantime, they may seek, because it's a land of the government, so which belongs to the sericulture department, according to the media reports and according to report from Ground Zero. So it's a buffer zone, and the it was felt that the burial could create a negative reactive response from the neighboring district, which we see is happening. So now the burial is postponed, and in the meantime, the ITLF is also pressing that, okay, so we will be postponing, but we will be having the condolence. So the condolence was done. And meantime, the rumors, I would say, spreading that, there is a plan to take out the dead bodies from the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences. It's lying in the morgue for the past 3 months. And there is a plan to take out those things from those grounds. So there was protest even in front of blockage, in front of the RIMS hospital. So this kind of, rapid spread of either, would say, rumors or maybe that miscommunication. So when the law and order situation is not properly controlled by the Manipur government. So this is what is bound to happen. But at the same time, it's important to note where the violence is happening,
Dr.
So
Gute, is it really possible? Yeah. Is it really possible? These are the latest visuals which are coming from Manipur. Latest visual. Dr. Gute, is it really possible that, even forces can be deployed on the ethnicity? ITLF is demanding that all Meitei should not be allowed to patrol the hilly areas. Which state is going to accept that, Dr. Gute?
That's what the demand which they are pushing it, because they don't feel safe. There is no trust on the state forces, like in courts, the Meitei state forces. So the demands on legalization of the proposed burial site, and then the release of the Kuki-Zou bodies, which are still lying in the morgue of hospital in Imphal, and the withdrawal of all the Meitei state forces, because there is that trust deficit. You can't trust. You entering the Meitei state forces into the hill district. So those things are actually, there are also news that rumors, I don't know, that the state forces are coming into the hills wearing the uniform of the Assam Rifles. So there is a strong threat which they get from the state forces, which we can also connect with the kind of violence which has been unfolded since 3rd May. And then, so there is total fear of the state forces.
A very warm welcome to you, Hasina. How are you? Thank you for making time. What is this happening in Churachandpur, I mean to say, do you think that in 5 days this position can come to a rest? Because such wide positions have been taken, such different and non-aligned positions have been taken. They are saying that this cannot go on, you confirm, because they are foreign fighters. The other party is saying that, we want even the jailmates from Imphal to be sent back.
It's a complete segregation.
I mean to say, within a hotspot, a sort of another hotspot has emerged, a micro hotspot. And what is most disturbing is, it's about burial, I mean to say, the whole thing is about dignity to the body. I mean, how long can you keep these bodies out there? Can you please unmute yourself?
The Kartiki, I mean, this is something which is, every day, the situation is escalating and is becoming so much, a divide, and the humanness, the human rights or the understanding of human dignity is getting lost every day. And that is something impractical, where how can civilians or communities actually demand something such as burial, site as, not even giving the body to be, to be buried. That is something impractical and inhuman. And I think it's time that the people, whatever situation has evolved in the last 2 months, there are parameters of humanness that we need to look within.
Okay.
We need to understand. We need to get the larger perspective of the situation, rather than going into this huge divide, which is actually not going to bring any kind of reconciliation of understanding the reality of what needs
Hasina,
to be
what
done.
is really, I think I'm very casually using the word disturbing. What is really strange is it was because of the Manipur High Court. If they wouldn't have said that status quo ante should be there, things would have been really out of control. It was because of the Manipur High Court's intervention, Brijesh.
Well, yes, I think, it was because of Manipur High Court intervention, but, one very interesting strand of narrative which has emerged, Karthike, and I would also like to get response from Dr. Goithe on this, that, the day before yesterday, Dr. Goithe, the Solicitor General of this country said that, that foreign infiltrators are coming, foreign militants are coming, we all know that's fighting, he said that he didn't want to bring it on. And yesterday only the Kokomi and everybody said that, that the dead bodies have to be identified, the DNA checked as to whether they are foreign militants or they are local people. So where does this foreign militant thing comes, and how do you think it is possible for anybody to check whether it's a foreign militant or not this quickly?
Yeah, I think coming to the point, I mean, it's such a baseless claim, which is to come from the Solicitor General of the India, a very high institute in itself. So he should know that the unclaimed mortal remains of the tribals in Imphal hospital are due to the problem of access, as there are no ways for the family to go and claim them due to the security issues. First thing, and question he should be asking, rather than saying this, such a immature or irrational remarks, he should be asking, has the state government laid down a secure environment for tribals to identify and claim the bodies of their loved ones? Such reckless remarks only added salt to injuries than healing. And I am really sorry to say this, but it's really uncalled for to come from a Solicitor General of India. Really,
Dr. Gujja, is there a law? Is there a custom that where Meiteis live, Kukizo cannot bury their dead, or is there a custom? Please enlighten me. Is there a custom that Meiteis cannot do the last rite in Kukizo areas? Is there something like that in Manipur?
No, there is no custom as such. Like the other people, we have our custom in terms of burial of the deads. During COVID time also, it was such a painful experience which the Kukizo are facing, and I believe irrespective of Kukizo, everyone, where you are distanced from your near and your loved ones on the last rite, that respect that you should be giving to your loved ones. So here in this context, because of its being a violent thing, and then the law and order situation has collapsed, and the state government is not taking a proper or issuing a proper directives on how to conduct the post-mortem and how to hand over the dead bodies to the relatives. So this is the responsibility of the state government to pay that, at least if they really feel sorry that, okay, the violence was uncalled for and it's it's out of their control, the law and order situation, then at least this is the least they should be doing it at the right time, handing over the bodies to the loved ones. And customs are there. Because see, at the end of the day, I personally believe in giving that last respect to your loved ones, and so until unless you do that, you feel that the soul of the dead, they don't rest in peace. So I think that's an universal belief, and here in this context, at least that last respect should be given by the state government, irrespective of either it be Meitei or it be Kukis.
Asina, what can happen in 5 days? First day has gone. What can happen on the 4th day? Can all these bodies be identified? Can a DNA test be done, conducted in 118 hours? No, it cannot be done.
So, at the end of the day, when we look at any situation anywhere in the world, there's one aspect is the respect to tribes and cultures and traditions, is what Dr. Goithe has mentioned. But the other is a human right values and principle, and what is legally correct. What is legally correct? Handing the body after a post-mortem for whatever death that happened is a directive of the state, because there's a law for that. When any death takes place, especially in a context where it's taken to the hospital, all the time there's a post-mortem that is being conducted, especially when the death is unnatural or the death has happened because of a clash or an accident, all of that. that is the responsibility of the state as per constitutional law of the country, and that's what medical thing has to be done and directive by the state. The second is that to
I think
conduct
that's a
that,
very important point,
it has to be
Hasina.
done it from the medical point of view.
I think that's a
The
very
other is
important
handing
point.
over it with dignity is the human right principle in any culture. Making the biggest debate over dead body and not abiding by existing laws, principles of what is
You know,
being
Hasina, you
adopted
hit the
is
nail.
making this
You
situation-
hit the nail. That is what I was thinking. It doesn't make a difference whether these are Maitis or cookies. It doesn't make a difference whether they are Hindus and Muslims. It doesn't make a difference which community they belong to. The only thing is dignity in death. If there is a problem at a community level, the state should intervene. State must intervene. Say, boss, these are Indians. These are not Indians. But they should be allowed dignity in death, which is the last rights. Brijesh.
But the Kartikeya, see, this is the tragedy of the entire event, that, for something as basic as breathing is to life, as to, giving dignity to the dead, where, you see that let go of all the hatred, ills or whatever you had in your mind. The division is so deep, Kartikeya, the division is so deep that yesterday Solicitor General and the Supreme Court also mentioned about rotting bodies. About
Yes,
rotting
rotting
bodies,
bodies,
which are
yes.
being claimed and all.
Yes.
And then the foreign body enters, and then there's a demand for the DNAs of this entire thing to be conducted. I think this is just an illustration of how deep the hatred is, how deep the divide is.
Hasina, you have been working across the border. You have an international experience here. Tell me, in such cases, what happens? Tell me, in cases of civil conflict, how do you give that dignity to that body? What do you do?
In all my life working across borders, we had to bring dead bodies because of, women and girls who've been trafficked, who has been found dead in another country. The law as itself of every country is handing over dead body in the most, legal dignity. Everything is being over the
Hasina,
process.
Hasina, just
Yeah.
wait a minute. Just let me give you an idea. We will have this discussion. It's a short 1-minute clip. Just let me play out. The sort of violence which got witnessed over dead bodies. People wanted to go to Churachandpur. There was a blockade. Things could have got out of hand. Police did a good job. They were able to ensure that the movement does not take place. Security forces did the job. Our correspondent was there. Please play out that story. 1 minute. Stay with me. 1 minute.
इस वक्त तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से यहाँ पर अब बाकायदा आंसू गैस के गोले छोड़े जा रहे हैं ताकि जो पब्लिक है उसको डिस्बर्स किया जा सके, पब्लिक को दूर किया जा सके। लगातार जो समुदाय है वो कोशिश कर रहा है चुराचांदपुर जाने की, लेकिन अब तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर इस वक्त आंसू गैस के गोले छोड़कर यहाँ पर कोशिश की जा रही है। तो ये देखिए, चाहेंगे कैमरामैन तस्वीरें आपको, ये देखिए आप तस्वीरें किस तरीके से लगातार कोशिश इस वक्त की जा रही है। स्थिति जो है वो काफ़ी तनावपूर्ण इस वक्त यहाँ पर हो चुकी है। कैमरामैन से मैं चाहूँगा तस्वीरें आपको दिखाता रहे। ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से जो तस्वीरें, बेहद स्थिति यहाँ पर तनावपूर्ण हो चुकी है। लगातार कोशिश की जा रही है, लगातार यहाँ पर कोशिश यहाँ पर की जा रही है कि किसी तरीके से रोका जा सके। तस्वीरें आप देखिए, लगातार आरएएफ आगे थी, लोगों को समझाया गया, काफ़ी देर तक बात की गई और उसके बाद जब उग्र भीड़ नहीं मानी तो उसके बाद आंसू गैस के गोले छोड़े गए। हालांकि अभी भी सुरक्षा बल जो है वो तनावपूर्ण स्थिति को काबू करने में यहाँ पर साफ तौर पर लगा हुआ देखा जा सकता है।
So, Dr. Guite, this is the report. This is the report from ground zero. Our correspondent has done it. Imagine that we cannot come to a resolution or sort of a peaceful conclusion on giving people Dr. Guite.
Yeah, see, the High Court controversy is on the side of the Bureau, right? So then here you see that both sides, the Mera Paibis and the Cookies of Women group coming towards that, so that other coming from the Hill district, other coming from the valleys. So that point of the place of controversy is something which the government and the High Court has intervened and is saying that in that interim period of 5 days and the next hearing on 9 August, they will be seeing how it will be working out. So the ITLF abides by the request And in the meantime, they also said that these are some of the things that what we are demanding. So here, Kartikeya, I would just like to go back to the larger picture of, how this violence is a manifestation of how the role of the Mera Paibis, which are, in this whole violence, which I feel is unveiling. Like in recent years, they are known as, they position themselves as the torch bearers of Manipur women. But in this entire violence, if we examine closer examinations, it reveals a very disturbing reality. So they have been complicit in crime.
What is this
Yes.
issue of foreign fighters? Suddenly how come, this foreign, is it stemming from the fact that the Solicitor General has said this? What is suddenly this foreign fighter thing has flared up in Manipur?
See, there are like from the beginning, like there have been accusation of like illegal immigrants, narco terrorists, then what now you are saying, foreign fighters. The latest is they are like antichrist, and I mean, what all names are you not calling the cookies of, in order to kind of put the blame on them. So I mean, this kind of coming out with every day with new excuses and new allegation is something which clearly indicates for a common people and for a rational thinking mind, it clearly tells us which party or where is the problem actually lies, and why is the violence not stopping.
Okay, Brijesh,
So,
tell me, what can the government do in this? Manipur High Court has said that, there has to be an amicable solution. Please maintain status quo ante. In terms of legal things, in terms of security, what do you think is the possibility on Tuesday or Wednesday?
Kartikeya, honestly, after 90 days, I don't know from where to start. This is a long list of what the government can do and a long list of what the government could have done much before to have this situation under control. The point is that there are two things, the case of foreign fighters, and most importantly, more than foreign fighters, it is the alteration of the status quo of the land, which is at the center of this flare up which we are talking about. And the biggest worry is that there is no concerted outreach to both the communities, where one community feels victimized. This is the reason you said, at the start of the conversation, that how can one ethnicity demand that a particular the state's police force can't go, but the other ethnicity says that the Assam Rifles, which is manned by Indian Army officers, they should not go.
The ITLF release says that the Maiti police cannot go to the
because
hilly areas.
Kartikeya, this is the problem. The divide is so deep, the distrust is so deep, the suspicion is so much.
But someone needs to do the healing job.
Who's that person?
I think the politicians need to do the healing job.
The politician right now, the situation is such, Kartikeya, that I wouldn't be out of context to say that if the politician want to survive and live and tell to the tale, nobody would dare venture into this thing. Nobody would dare venture. The flame.
But then who does the healing job? Hasina, you work in war-torn areas. You have worked in Myanmar. It's a beautiful country. I had the opportunity to go there twice. One by crossing Moreh border a long time back. I did that. And once I directly went to Yangon and Napito. I traveled all the way to Napito. I understand when you talk about things there. But then, if this is not allowed, then where will this violence stop? What do we expect? Bodies to rot on the fields?
Like I just said, Kartikeya, 90 days I've been in your panel constantly at every time. When we say that the state has failed to actually intervene in bringing, to restore any kind of peaceful or law and order situation, then I think the first basic, can the central government intervene from the constitutional point of view that there has to be law and order, there has to be a peaceful and security support to all civilians living in this state, no matter which community they belong, which tribe they belong. That's one part of it. Two, can they just apply the legal structure that the country, India as a democracy, is applying for every state in any crisis? Why can that be applied? So if the state leadership has failed, then the central leadership has to intervene. Why is it so delayed? That's the basic point for all the escalation of the problem that has taken place constantly, So when you talk, who's going to take responsibility? If the state has failed to take responsibility, the leadership has failed, no matter which parties it is. It is president rule that has to come on board to take stock that the communities at large, the human being living in that state, needs peace and stability, needs law and order situation. All that has to come before we speak about all the larger context of conflict and divide and all of it. Now today we're going to start dividing, who's a foreigner, who's not a foreigner, who's come from across the border. Peace can never be resolved, Kartikeya.
Peace can never be, peace can never be arrived unless and until there's a conversation. Peace can only be arrived if people are talking to each other one to one. Coming to one of the stories, I was reading yesterday that there was an RTI which was published by a website, by a website, and in that website, the RTI giver asked what about the Article 355, and the response they got from the government of India was that they are not aware of this notification.
Well, I think
it was published in a.
I know.
I think the Wire.
I read it. Yeah, it was published in the Wire.
Yeah.
And the interesting part of the entire conversation, Kartikeya, is that if the 355 was not imposed,
to chal hai kya fir wahan?
I mean, then what exactly was the security apparatus doing? And honestly speaking, the crackdown. Where is the crackdown? I mean, you have so much force. We have never heard that there is a crackdown and 50 people been arrested with guns or weaponry being snatched away or looted from the armory, and this many of bullets and all have been recovered. There is no crackdown, and this is the reason why it has given a sense of belief to both sides that you can carry out your violent act with impunity. There is nobody to punish you.
Yeah,
and this is the reason why both sides are fearing one set of policemen.
मुझे एक चीज बताइए, नूह में भी यही हो रहा है और मणिपुर में भी हुआ, मतलब क्रैकडाउन 2 दिन बाद हुआ नूह में.
Nuh was, see, the similarity between Nuh and Manipur, Kartikeya, is that the intelligence apparatus failed to gauge the start. The intelligence apparatus failed. Where the biggest trouble lie. But in Manipur, there has been a systematic let go of a proper decorum, which is that as a chief minister, you are the head of the state, you are the guardian.
I am also joined by Geeta Rani, Thankelamba, advocate, Manipur High Court. Geeta Rani, thank you so much for joining my show. Please display her name, Geeta Rani ji's name. Please put the number plate on. Geeta Rani ji, am I audible to you?
Yes. Am I audible?
Oh yes, you are audible to me. Geeta Rani ji, my first question to you is, what is happening in Churachandpur? I mean to say, why can't people bury their dead?
See, of course they can bury their dead, but the manner in which it has been handled is the issue. The land where they choose to bury the land, that is the issue. They have chosen a land which is actually state land and which they received a notice earlier last year for eviction. So, and this land actually is associated with folklore of Meiteis. This is a very sacred land in our history. So, utilizing this for burial site, mass burial site, is not acceptable for the Meitei for this reason also. Also, Kartikeya, just imagine, if you want to use a land for burial, there should be a process, there should be a permission process, right? You can't just all of a sudden decide this spot is going to be used for mass burial. And it is state land. How do you do that? I mean, one day, suddenly, because you are scheduled tribes, you have control over the forest land. That is the assumption that the Kuki community is making. No, there is a procedure for this, and they have not followed that. That's why people are protesting against it. And there is a significance in the, history of Meiteis. This land is sacred to them. That's why they're protecting it. There's a reason.
Geeta Rani ji, you are saying that it is part of the sacred groove or sort of a sacred land where burial was being organized?
Yes. It's actually Moirang Parba. There's a history, part of the history of Meiteis. Khamba Thoibi story is there. If we can, that is too elaborate for me to explain right now.
No, why not? Please, it is education. It is an education, Geeta Rani ji. I'm joined by Dr. Guite also. You must. Both sides of the story should come. It is to the point. Please explain to us.
So there is this folklore Moirang Parba where we have this heroine Khamba and Thoibi story, okay? in this a wild captured, and in this site, so this particular site was mentioned in that story, and we since ancient times have been associating this story with this land. So we cannot under any circumstances have this land as a mass burial site.
So then what is the
And
demand
in
of the
addition-
Meitei community, Geeta Rani ji? What exactly should be done? What should be the solution, Geeta Rani ji?
Solution will be to identify a different spot for the mass burial. If they follow the procedure, get the permission for that, we have no issue. We also, Meiteis, we respect our death. We follow all the ceremony, and we have, death of cremation and everything. We respect that, but the process in which the dead bodies have been radicalized, used for their own political purpose to gain control over this particular area which was disputed earlier, this is not acceptable. There is a procedure that they have to follow.
Geeta Rani ji, see, Brijesh, this side, I want to understand what is the bigger problem. Is the identification of the foreign militants the bigger problem, or just the site of the burial, and you are all right with it?
See, bigger problem immediately right now is prevention of this mass burial at this particular site. Because this they are going to do immediately. And anyway, High Court order has given status quo order. So for now, this is, protected. But if they insist on using this site, that will be an issue. Because as I said, there is a connection with our history. And this is a sacred place for us. So alternative land can be arranged. They cannot insist we want only this lane. So this is the immediate issue right now because this is happening today they are demanding. So and after few days of the court order, next I think 9th August, so this issue will come up. Yes, illegal in
period. So how does it happen? I was having a conversation with Brijesh. आज सुबह हम बैठे इसी पे बात कर रहे थे. How does that happen, Geeta Rani ji? How do you solve it in next, let's say, 150 hours? Because that's the time you have, or that's the time which people perceive to have.
See, Kartikeya, I think identification of the bodies is very important because this has become an issue. And suddenly they wanting to bury it, it creates suspicion in the minds of people. Suddenly, after Solicitor General gave a statement to the Supreme Court, this step has been taken out. So I think however much time has to be taken, that is for the authority, the concerned, medical people to be, ask their opinion. As of I cannot say how much time can be taken, of course, but these dead bodies have been lying there for quite some time, right? So burial has to be after identification this much. I think it's clear. How much time is to be taken is for the authority to decide, and if necessary, they can take permission from the court for how much time they're going to take.
Okay, Geeta Rani ji, please stay with me. Please stay with me. Dr. Guite is also with us. She's a professor. She teaches. Dr. Guite?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Dr. Guite, would you like to respond to what Geeta Rani ji was saying in context of the sacredness of the place, in context of the burial site?
And also, if I may add one more point, Dr. Guite, is like whether any permission was taken or not, as is one of the allegations.
Correct.
See, regarding the historical narratives, I mean, this has also been one of the contestation between these two groups of why the violence have erupted. And I would say history is something on accounts of different people, so that the collective narratives when it comes to history of what is the history of the Meitei, what is the history of, or let's say collectively the history of Manipur as a political administration, that is something which is still being debated. So but now in the present context, if we see at the official record, it is clearly saying it's S. Bolzang village, which is coming under the hill district, and then in that village who are residing, the Kukizou tribes, they are residing there. So it is not something that the Kukizou people are claiming or saying that because of this violence, or trying to say that this is the border that we draw and this is where we are claiming our land, so that's why we are going to the burial site, we choose that site. So I don't think that is something which is intentional on the Kuki-Zo people, because as per the official records and as per the settlement, it is the Kuki-Zo who are settling there, right? And secondly, what was the second point?
It was like, they're saying that no permission was taken from the authorities and it was decided all of a sudden. That is also one of the key grounds.
Okay, decide that exactly. I don't have any concrete information on that.
Fair enough, Dr. Geeta, fair enough. Geeta Rani ji, the Kokumi also says that narco-terrorists cannot be buried at the sericulture firm. It's an allegation. How do you know that the people who died are narco-terrorists, How does court take that into cognizance, There is no fact check there.
Yeah, so this is the allegation of the Maitreis because we have grounds of suspicion that they are militants coming from outside. So this has to be ascertained. That's why I was saying identification of the dead bodies is very important. And however much time is required, already they were lying there in the fridge of the hospital for quite some time, for so many days. So few more days doesn't matter, but it has to be cleared. They cannot just bury without clearing this issue, whether they were actually citizens of Manipur or outsiders from Myanmar or wherever they have come. So this has to be ascertained. They cannot be. And for choosing this particular area, these villages, they were given eviction notice. It's right, Cookies are claiming this to be their land, which it is contested by the state government and found that they are not liable to stay there and they are given eviction notice.
But Geeta Rani ji, it is so surprising. ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे it's the High Court and Supreme Court which are working overtime. Something which lies in the political remit, the poor courts have to, get into it. In Delhi, you have the Supreme Court, trying to shake the moral conscience of people that, boss, what happened? This cannot be done. And it is a High Court which is, trying to resolve a civic problem, which should be done by the politicians. It's like we are burdening our higher judiciary. ये तो काम नहीं है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, हाई कोर्ट का. जो काम पॉलिटिशियंस का है, हमारे कोर्ट्स कर रहे हैं, हमारे जजेस कर रहे हैं बैठ के. गीता रानी जी,
पर काम नहीं हो रहा है एग्जीक्यूटिव से, पॉलिटिशियन से, तो कहा जाए सुप्रीम कोर्ट के दरवाजे.
No, salute to the High Court, salute to the Supreme Court. They are doing a fabulous job. Imagine there was so much of tension if High Court wouldn't have intervened, तो कुछ भी हो सकता था.
Yes.
But then, what is the legal way out, Geeta Rani ji?
See, there is no way out except for choosing a place which is not disputed. See,
but that's not the way out. Now, what will be the way out, Geeta Rani ji?
See, from my point of view, mass burial should be on an undisputed land because, the dates should be properly, and these burials should be after identification of the dead bodies. How do you honor them if you don't know them? If they are saying it's their relative, give their names, their details. It's like, a proper procedural thing should be done. It's not be done hurriedly. If it was to be hurriedly, then why not done before? What is the hurry here?
But
something is very, fishy here. As you say, like, something is, as if something is trying to be hidden, like there's a hidden agenda in the hurriedness of this whole process.
Geeta Rani ji, one question which I would like to understand, because Thursday, day before, the Solicitor General said, and today the demand is all over the place. The point is that it's not like when the dead bodies were there, as the Solicitor General was referring to, why didn't the state got the autopsy done or the post-mortem done or the DNA test done so that it can be identified whether that person is a Myanmari infiltrator or terrorist or somebody who's entering and is a foreign militant? Don't you think that could have done and could have put paid to all the kind of narratives that are running amok and causing a problem?
Yes, British, I cannot say that they have not done this because the learned Solicitor General getting this kind of statement before the Supreme Court cannot be without basis. There has to be a basis, and I'm sure this will come out in due course before the court.
Okay. Geeta Rani ji, please stay with me. Let me go to Hasina. Hasina, today the situation has deteriorated. Let me play out those graphics. There's a curfew in West Imphal, there's a curfew in East Imphal, and only essential services are required. Hasina, in such situation, how long can civil society continue to live? Because it means disruption of education, it means disruption of work life for children, it means disruption for working women. Because first thing you do is you don't let the women go out, and when the most important of all, it creates a very bad situation for students. We did a show, Brijesh and I, that a lot of students will go to Central University. So you are not only dislocating people inside the valley, but the people who are studying there, they also get dislocated to various other universities, Hasina.
So let me go from education. In a situation of, the law and order failure in Manipur, it has totally devastated all, young people, middle age, whoever are still studying within the state, especially for its school, colleges, and all of that. That is one of the biggest situation that is going to be very, very, harming to the mental health of young people, of people in colleges and all of that. And that is also one of the biggest reason that is going to cause more disharmony in the future, because young people will get frustrated. Number two, if you're looking at in terms of people who are working, especially those who are entrepreneurs, people who are on daily jobs or daily laborers, at a different strata of the economic. In the absence of economic, it's going to be more frustrating as an individual, as the family. What's going to happen to that? That is going to cause more chaos and more conflict. These are natural process of human being. The third, you're not allowed to be coming out. The psychosocial support system is creating fear among communities by itself. Because when this has gone rampant without any direction.
Question, Hasina ji? And to Dr. Guite, can I ask a question point blank? Is it possible to move burial site, I'm not saying that because you belong to the community, but I'm just asking you, is it possible within that cultural frame to shift the burial site?
You're asking me, Kartike?
Yes.
Okay. I think we can wait for what the demands which are made by the ITLF according to
the first demand of ITLF is separate administration. Now, how do you have that separate administration in 5 days? And the second demand is to not deploy Meitei troops. That is also not possible. We all know that, we all, you are a teacher, you work in conflict areas. Brijesh is one of the best journalists in India. He covers the ruling government. We all know you don't take those decisions in 5 days. No one takes those decisions in 5 days. No one.
But a compromise can be reached. A compromise can be reached. So there can be a compromise. So it depends on the Home Ministry on how they compromise with the leaders of the cookies of community.
Geeta Rani, you said compromise. Geeta Rani ji?
Yes.
Geeta Rani ji, what sort of a compromise can happen? If there is a compromise, you are a legal luminary, what can be the compromise?
Compromise on this particular mass burial issue from the Meitei side cannot be done as regards this particular spot, and identification of the dead body. These two cannot be compromised. We need the place to be changed to an alternate place approved by the authority with proper permission taken, and identification of the dead bodies must be done before we will.
So how do you expect to do that, Geeta Rani ji? Because can I ask you one thing? Who is in possession of the bodies? Who will allow the access? Where are the bodies kept? I'm sitting in Delhi and I'm asking these questions because you people know it better.
See, 35 bodies, I believe, are lying in Churachandpur in the hospital, and some more are there in Imphal district, some hospital, RIMS, I believe. So, in Imphal, I'm sure identification process will not be difficult. But for Churachandpur, I think the state government or the central government has stepped in strongly if identification has to be done, because Churachandpur right now is in total control of the Kuki militants.
Okay, so you are saying basically identification of the body is required. Identification means access to the body. It means doctors to be deployed there. It means that there has to be a forensic team. It also means that it has to be corroborated with the identity
Yeah, without identity, how can you establish whether the militant is a local person or is a foreign militant? So I think it involves a lot of work, and it's not going to be that easy. The access, the identification part, and I think what we're witnessing is another
I think,
standoff
isn't it
between the
coming
two
back to,
communities.
Geeta Raniji, it is coming back to the same thing which we have been discussing, land. I had a lot of colleagues in Delhi working in various newsrooms, different community. One of them said, Kartike, this is about land. Land पे कब्जा हो रहा है. And I was like, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है, Geeta Rani ji.
ऐसे ही हो रहा है कार्तिकेय जी. It's all about land because our ST demand is also not so much for the reservation of jobs, it's preservation of our land and equal rights of Maitis all over Manipur as it was before joining the Indian Union. See, and particularly, occupation of forest land by tribes and, increase of their villages. All other villages are not increased. Maitai villages not increased. Naga villages not increased. But the Kuki villages are increased like 200%. Especially in Churachandpur and then in Technopole area, certain borders, like districts, the exponential increase in the population and the number of villages encompassing upon the village forest land and deforestation and poppy plantation, these are all interconnected and basically, yes, you are right, this is the issue of land. And right now also the choosing of this particular spot for burial, mass burial is also an issue of land. They are trying to occupy this land. And
So,
knowing fully well what implication this will have upon other communities, especially Meitei. This is a provocation.
So, Dr. Guite, life comes a full circle. We come back to the land. ज़मीन से शुरू हुई थी बात और ज़मीन पे आके खत्म हो गई.
Exactly. In fact, I would say the Manipur government is on record. They come claiming that, like Geeta Rani is saying that that the Kuki are spread, their villages are increasing. So you see like how this the claim of Kuki as poppy growers, narco terrorists, and illegal infiltrators. All this, the Manipur government came on record, and it ignores the fact that every group in Manipur, including the insurgents and the politicians, they thrive on the drug trade. Poppy cultivation arises in the absence of other means of economic development. And that controlling illegal infiltration from Myanmar is the job of the government. So what is the government doing? This is the first question. And then second, when it comes to, conveniently saying that the dead bodies are of infiltrators, of illegal immigrants. Okay, so the illegal immigrants, they have been residing in Imphal Valley? Because these dead bodies are in Imphal. So the question is, okay, and then they are all government employees, most of them, because the hill peoples reside in the valley because most of the infrastructure from education to job to everything is concentrated in the Imphal Valley. So are they telling that the Manipur government have been employing illegal immigrants? So these are some of the, contradictory if we want to get into the nitty-gritty of who is wrong and who is right. And, ultimately at the end of the day, we can see the greed for land is the main reason. Like as you rightly say, Kartike, like wahi pe shuru hua, wahi pe khatam.
And Hasina ji, what I have noticed through visuals is memorializations of different memories have come up. People in the Maithi areas have erected their own memorials. People in the Kukizo areas have erected their memorials. So, the contested history has become even more contested. I would always say this to Brijesh. I have never, because I was part of one of the effort of one of the foundations in Delhi to get the two sets of community together, and I was surprised that when the Kuki spoke about the Manipur history, it was very different from the way Meitei spoke about it. Even the timelines differed, even the historical places differed, even places of celebration differed. So it just tells me, Brijesh, that the history is extremely contested in Manipur. It's not imagined in a way, it's imagined in multiple, in a competing way.
Well, of course, but that is how one ethnicity tries to impose its own version of set of events over the other. The fight between the two is definitely, and it has been said right from the word go, is about land, and there is no denying the fact. What could have been done or what should have been done for sure was to avoid the kind of bloodshed which was there. The government should have acted. If certain decisions have to be taken or certain conclusions have to be reached, you can do it in a far more civil or a controlled environment. But the kind of violence which is there for the last 3 months plus, Kartike, and the loss of bloodshed, that video coming out in the open, the hardening of stands, I honestly don't see anybody dialing back from their stated position. And if they don't dial back, the worry is the situation is bound to get worse. All talks of track 2 is just a mirage right now.
And is there a debate on Manipur next week?
Yes, Kartike, this is what I have been given to
Prime Minister going to
understand.
speak?
Nobody knows right now whether
The
the
Home
Prime
Minister will speak.
But the Home Minister will speak because Home Minister has visited the place. The Home Minister is the nodal agency as far as dealing with law and order situation in Manipur is concerned, and it's going to be extremely interesting to see how it pans out, because what is happening in Manipur is definitely not good news for the rest of the country.
Absolutely. Geeta Rani ji, are you there with me?
Yes, can I get just 2 minutes to say something?
Oh, absolutely, Geeta Rani ji. This is a conversation. It's not a TV debate. आप बीच में बोल सकती थी, hello, Kartike. It's not a boys club. Dekhiye, all my guests are women today. All my guests are women today, and I've been saying that.
Thank you. I couldn't see the visual, so I was actually, regarding the history of Meiteis is like written record more than 2000 years back. There is no dispute about the history of Meiteis. Yes, there are allegations about history of cookies that has been made up. And in the social media also, if everybody is vigilant, you'll be seeing all sort of new books that come up, new allegations and new claims, which Naga people also have actually refuted. So I strongly refute the statement that the history of Meiteis is, disputed or yet to be established. This is one point. And also regarding Professor Gaite's greed for land. This also I want to refute, saying that during Manipur kingdom, during the days of the kingdom, before joining Indian Union, Meiteis, Nagas, everybody had equal rights over the land. Because of this scheduled tribe issue, scheduled land issue, the Meiteis have been deprived from buying land in their own state. And we were tribes earlier. That kind of anomaly, and we are confined to the 6% of the land mass of Manipur. This kind of, inequalities there which we want to rectify is a historical blunder which needs to be changed. And we are not asking for more land, we are asking for equal rights to the land. So this is not, I don't think in any sense we can call it greed.
Only thing, Geeta Rani ji, I would say was that, let me put it this way. I was part of the India Foundation when they had the meeting on 2 days. So the first day, the distinguished Meitei people were called, men and women. And the second day, distinguished Kuki leaders were called, civil society men and women. And firstly, I realized that I'm not a trained historian, neither a lawyer, nor someone like Dr. Guite teaching in a university. I don't even have that sort of a experience like Hasina in the international arena, working with people. But what I picked up was the sense of history, the narrative of history was different. What is true and what is false is not in my domain. It is not in my domain, but it is different. I am not saying what is fact, what is not fact, but I am saying it was competing. It was like two different parallel universes, and I was really surprised. It rarely happens in other states, but in some states it's happened, and we understand that you have violence because the lack of coexistence happened. And today, these are the visuals. Ladai, burial site pe ho gayi. The whole issue of sacredness, identification of body, it's all there. I'm not standing in judgment. I cannot discount it as a journalist. I'm no one. The court has given an order, we all respect that. But the fact of the matter is, no dignity in death.
Yes.
No dignity in death. मरे को भी जमीन नहीं मिल रही है. एक तो इंडियन होगा उसमें, अगर 35 बाहर के, मैं ये भी कह दूं, पॉइंट इतना लिमिटेड है कि इतनी ज्यादा एनिमोसिटी है कि अब क्रिमेशन में भी प्रॉब्लम है. दैट इज द बॉटम लाइन. दैट इज द बॉटम लाइन.
BrahMos, stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The warship killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain.